Willie?
Here.
Chair Harrington?
Here. Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is public communication. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and share their thoughts with the Clean Water Services Board of Directors on anything that touches on Clean Water Services actual services. So Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to do so?
Yeah, we had one sign up, Mr. Dale Feek. Mr. Feek?
Thank you, Mr. Feek. I'm glad you found us this evening.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I'm glad I'm here. Glad I get to participate or listen in on the last work session. That was very helpful to me. Dale Feek, Chair, Commissioners, and Director of Clean Water Services. Rahim Harji. Is that right?
Pull that mic a little closer to you, Dale.
Is better?
Just bend it down.
Better?
There you go.
Ah, good. Start over. Never mind, that's a bad joke again. I just used 30 seconds of my time.
TikTok, buddy.
I have 3 topics. 1, 2, 3. Getting clarification from clean water staff and the county staff. I've been working with them. I've learned that in order to properly communicate with the Clean Water Service Board of Directors, the county commission serving as the board of directors, send an email to Clean Water Services, the way to register, make public comment, and to email written comments to be included in the minutes. An email needs to be sent to the county clerk. Why should the county clerk that? I made a mistake because Sue Page of Clean Water Services, I registered with her. She let me know today. I was able to quickly read this. She says, I just want to clarify one item below the number 1. The correct email address to sign up for public comment is publicmeetings@cleanwaterservices.org. Public meetings, cleanwaterservices.org, which is the address you sent your request for public comment at Clean Water Service meeting on September 8th, which I replied with a confirmation receipt. The Clean Water Service Board, Clean Water Services Board.org email address is the address to contact Clean Water Board directors with constituent concerns. We will continue to try to help direct any correspondence in the correct. So I apologize to the mayors and the other people that read this because I gave the wrong address, wrong how to make public comment. Number 2, after reading the Clean Water Service Advisory Commission or Committee, whichever is the official, meetings for at least 10 years as an observer and a public commenter, I've seen changes that should improve the quality and effectiveness of the meetings. During the last few years, the meetings in the various places have microphones and a recording system. The recording then can serve as the minutes of the meetings and people can later review the actions, decisions made. Previously it appeared to me a one-way communication system, the giving of information by Clean Water Services to the commission members. This is what I observed. The consent item number 3 is a request for the Clean Water Service Advisory Committee to provide feedback to staff on updating the Healthy Streams Plan. Clean Water Service Board of Directors want, this is what they want, specifically on the planning assumptions, project goals, prioritization criteria, and make a recommendation to the board on adoption. That's their charge. And we have, I think, more people on that can do that now on that commission or committee. Updating the plan will support the district ability to meet current permit requirements, be prepared to meet potential future permit requirements. That's interesting. And provide services to ratepayers in a cost-effective manner. Please provide the time and resources for the members of the Clean Water Advisory to do the feedback for that kind of stuff. And I'm out. Number 3, you have to look at yourself. It has the number, I guess, never mind. Anyway, take a look at that. It has to do with design and construction standards.
Thank you, Mr. Feek.
Any other member of the public in the work session room provides comments to the board director of Clean Water Services for up to 3 minutes? Not seeing anyone raise their hands or coming forward. Is there any member on Zoom that wish to provide public comment to the board of directors for up to 3 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Next, we'll move on to check in to see if there are any questions or discussion items on the board with regard to today's agenda.
No.
No, seeing none, we'll move on then to tonight's consent agenda, which consists of 4 items. one set of minutes for CWS Board of Directors, one award task number, and a request that the Clean Water Services Advisory Commission provide feedback on updating the Healthy Streams Plan. Thirdly, a waive for requirement for the request for proposals process. What are the wishes of the board regarding tonight's consent agenda?
Move to accept the consent agenda proposed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, directors. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we'll move on to presentations. Here is where we have a presentation on the design and construction standards revision process and public engagement activities. Welcome.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
Wonderful.
Oh, you have the clicker, right? Yes, you do.
Excellent. Well, good evening, Chair Harrington, members of the board. I'm Elle Allen, the Development and Permitting Manager at Clean Water Services, and I'm here to provide an update on the design and construction standards, revision process, and public engagement activities. Before I begin, I'd like to recognize a few other team members who are in the room with us tonight. Thank you to Krista Reininga, who's been helping from Brown and Caldwell, who's been helping with the technical content. Grace Wolf, the planning analyst in our department, who's been helping ensure that we manage comments and respond to the community that provides those comments. And Shannon Huggins, who's in our communications and community engagement group, helping with the community engagement on this process. I'd also like to recognize that you've heard in the past from the project manager, Damon Reishi. He's unable to be with us tonight, but put it in my hands to take it forward. So thanks for having me this evening.
You're doing great so far.
Thank you. Okay. So this evening, I'll share an update on the project progress and schedule and provide a summary of the public drafts and comments that we've received so far. And then we'll have some time for discussion about next steps. As a reminder, we're working on the revisions to the stormwater standards to align with stormwater requirements that are in our watershed-based National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, which is issued to Clean Water Services by the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. In that permit, we have a deadline to complete these revisions by November 1st, 2026.
Which will be here before we know it.
Yes. There are several changes that are required with this revision process. The project team has shared these with the board in the past, but I'll provide a summary tonight as well. So the first is a new standard to require infiltration with new and redevelopment projects. This includes developing a numerical stormwater retention requirement and a correlating design storm, which is a synthetic, statistically derived storm that engineers use to design stormwater infrastructure. The permit also requires that we update our water quality design storm so that we are treating a depth of 80% of the average annual runoff. We must also include language that explicitly prioritizes green infrastructure before hardscape controls. And with all of these requirements, we have a technical infeasibility and site constraints evaluation, which takes us through a hierarchy of stormwater management requirements and helps a designer determine what management is required on a site. So here's our project timeline, which is also posted on our project webpage. You'll remember that we formally started this project in December of 2025 when this board authorized the project scope and directed our Clean Water Advisory Commission to hold a stakeholder forum and provide feedback to staff. Since then, we've released 2 public drafts, and we're here today on August 25th with our second board update. And you'll see that we have a scheduled board hearing or public hearing on October 13th. So it's right around the corner. Throughout this process, we've been working with stakeholders and doing outreach, and I'll provide more information about the comments that we've been receiving in a few slides. So we've made public drafts available and posted those on our webpage in May and August, and we are planning to post a formal draft in September. We've also initiated a series of targeted stakeholder outreach events and listening sessions, and we've gotten some really good productive feedback, which has actually led to some meaningful adjustments to the language and the standards from the first draft to the second draft. I want to acknowledge the input and care that we've received in comments from staff from partner cities who have participated in a technical work group. And we've also received great feedback from Washington County Department of Land Use and Transportation. In addition, we've received feedback, good feedback from the Tualatin River Keepers, as well as the Home Builders Association. And then of course, Clean Water Services Advisory Commission, as the full commission and also as a subcommittee that they formed to dig a little bit deeper into the technical topics. And in addition, I mentioned we had a public forum that was hosted by CWAC. So beyond the targeted stakeholder input, we also have information that's available to anybody in the public who's interested. We have a dedicated project webpage, which includes presentations of recordings, public drafts with red lines, and also a comment submittal form. We also manage an email listserv for interested parties of over 1,000 recipients. And to date, we've sent 3 emails to that listserv about this project specifically. We do plan on sending at least 1 more email to that listserv to notice that group once the formal public draft is available on the web page, so that they're informed that they can review that in anticipation of the public hearing. Our partners at Washington County Land Use and Transportation highlighted this project at the recommendation of the board in one of the LUT email newsletters, which is a listserv of over 1,800 people. And so you can see with the CWS listserv and the county listserv, we were seeing an open rate of 47% and a click rate of 8 to 9%, which I'm told is good. So I mentioned the comments that we've received have been very helpful. They've been productive. There is a log on our webpage that has consolidated comments and staff responses to those comments. And I'll also share some highlights tonight. Much of the feedback has been of a very technical nature and focused on providing clarifications around the design process and new requirements. This applies to things like the methodology for stormwater facility sizing, the process to evaluate a development site and determine what contributing impervious surface area requires stormwater management, and also requirements for on-site infiltration testing. So we've made some adjustments to the standards to respond to these questions, and we've asked those technical reviewers to take a second look at the second draft to help ensure that we have a clear design process. That group of technical reviewers includes design engineers who work for developers who routinely work in our jurisdiction, so they're very familiar with this content. Another notable comment is a proposed change around accessibility projects and trail improvement projects. The proposed revisions provide some flexibility and new options for those types of projects, which are often constructed with limited budget, limited scope, limited land availability. So historically, they've been a challenge, and we're working to respond to that and open up some flexibility. And then finally, as a result of input from the Oregon Department of Transportation and Washington County, and actually some of our city partners, we've included some language about how to manage projects that trigger federal stormwater standards and local stormwater standards. In the past, we've managed that situation on a project by project basis, and this new language helps to provide clarity and with the hope of consistency and streamlining the process. Another common question that we get is how will these standards impact projects that are already in progress? And so the proposal that your board will see in October will include implementation and vesting language, which is consistent with the language that we've used in past updates to the design and construction standards. So projects that are already in process and have submitted a land use application to either the county or the jurisdictional city will have the option of continuing to move forward through completion under the older standards. And newer projects with a land use application date after November 1st would be required to manage their project under the newer standards. So as we move through next steps, we continue to solicit comments and receive comments and accept them. So that is ongoing. In addition, we intend to publish a formal public draft and notice of public hearing in September. And we're scheduled to bring this topic back to the board, as I've mentioned, for the public hearing on October 13th. So we have time for discussion this evening and a couple of questions we would like you to consider. So as we move towards this November 1st deadline to complete the revisions, does the board have input on the engagement activities and the process as a whole? And the second one is a little more open, just interested if the board needs any additional information, especially anything that would be needed before we come to our scheduled meeting in October. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Allen. So we'll now turn it over to the board to see if you have any thoughts on these two discussion questions. Commissioner Snyder?
First of all, on question number one, I am thoroughly impressed by the action that's been taken, in part because of feedback we provided really early on in the process about engaging cities, the Home Builders Association, the River Keepers, et cetera. I feel like that's a very robust group, and it's been, from what I can tell, a two-way interaction, not just, people sort of getting upset or providing feedback about something and then not hearing anything, which sometimes is a criticism of local government. I've heard that before, and probably been part of it occasionally, try to avoid it. But I don't feel like that's what's happened here at all. So I really appreciate the engagement. And for that reason, and the fact that you've already really done what we've asked, plus some, I would say, I don't have more feedback for you on the engagement process. On the additional information, I think the only thing that, and I don't know how to make this better necessarily, but having been through, one or two land use processes in my lifetime, there's a lot of work that's done well before something's submitted. And so I realize the deadline being what it is, and you either submit before then or not. I get that, but I mean, there's people doing projects now that if they don't, hopefully they know about this, but if they don't, they're going to be doing a lot of rework, and I don't like that, but you got to call it somewhere, and so I can live with it. That's all I got.
Commissioner Treese?
Thank you, and thank you to all of you for the work that's been done here. And I'm reflecting a bit on some of the work that was done. I think maybe I'm thinking about how long Joe Gall's been with us, but there was a real concerted effort to start engaging our partners at the city, partners in business and industry and other areas. And I really feel this project shows the fruit of that work because of the level of engagement. And to Commissioner Snyder's point, that give and take of information is so valuable, and the connectedness that it brings to Clean Water Services with the community at large is an ongoing value. So thank you for this work. I don't need any additional information. I want to know where one or two of these pictures were taken, because they may be spots that I don't know about. So thank you for your work on this.
And I know I have to get with proper lingo since we're the Clean Water Services Board of Directors. So Director Willie.
Well, yeah, this is great. It's always good. And like Pam said, these pictures are very cool. I like this process. And I get to drive by it on Jackson School Road every day. And so this looks really, really great. So I have to admit a little bit of my ignorance, though, when you start talking about that you've got 1,000 recipients on your interested parties email. And obviously they all signed up voluntarily, but only 47% of them open the thing. So they get an email from Clean Water Services, but they don't open it.
No,
Is that a good? Is this
Yes.
47% is a good rate
Yes,
or open rate?
That's what I hear, yeah.
it's a very
for the topic. Yeah,
I think the industry standard for just general stuff's under 30%.
yeah.
So, and then a 9% click rate means they actually read it.
Oh,
They cared enough to like click into it, and look at the details.
So they stayed there. They just didn't delete. Huh?
they clicked the link.
All right. Well, that's interesting. That's
Not
interesting
unlike
stats.
our having workday training we have to go through on all of our Washington County policies.
Well, yes, but
We're supposed to read the policy.
we can't zip through those. It doesn't let us.
No,
Um,
exactly.
So anyway, no, this is great. Good report. I look forward to the one in November. And then to Jason, to your comment, the projects that are, if I'm reading this correctly, the projects that are in process right now, as long as they get in before October 31st, by October 31st.
Well,
they're
they'd have to have their land use application done and submitted is the way it's written. So my point is just that some big projects, just realistically, there's work being done now that are not going to be submitted by.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks. Anyway, good job. Thank you.
Director Fry.
Thank you, Chair. I'll jump in. Thank you for your great presentation. I don't know what happened to my voice, but all of a sudden my voice is disappearing. But thank you for your presentation. I do agree with Commissioner Snyder, and I'm going to plagiarize one of the words he used and say it was robust. And I think I was gonna, last night when I was reading the materials, I was gonna make this joke, and I hope we take it um, as a joke. But when I saw the first question, I was like, what is Clean Water Services hiding? What did we miss that we should have asked you? Because I did feel like it was a robust, um, going through with this whole process. And so I just thought I would joke with you. You don't have to answer that question, but I hope we didn't miss anything that we should ask you. That we should know to ask you around providing inputs around the engagement process. If there is, let me know. But I do feel like you've educated us in this process, and we provided what I think was a robust. And in terms of, do I need additional? No, I don't. I think you're good to proceed forward, and look forward to again taking an action in October.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
very much.
So I go last for the board. So let me first say I appreciate that we had this topic come to us. I believe at our July, was it the 23rd or 30th work session? So you've incorporated, you answered our questions then, you continue to answer them and represent the project really well. And I join my colleagues in being very pleased with the engagement that you have going on now. I don't need any more additional information on this project in advance of the public hearing and adoption date. All is going well, in my opinion. I do have a question, not on this specific project, but in the realm of surface water and storms. At home, we record the NBC Nightly News, and weather activity is a common topic for these half-hour news programs. And it's really impressive. But it's been impressive to me since we had that work session on this topic, the level of floods occurring in other U.S. cities and also rural areas. And I'm just wondering, the design storm that you talked about needs to be a design storm that is relevant to the Oregon Tualatin River watershed and the time frame. Boy, weird stuff is happening elsewhere in the country. And years ago, like back in 2021, in one of our work session days, I remember Ting Lu was telling us more about modeling and storms. And so I'm wondering if you might look into this topic a little bit and help inform us about, from like some of these other geographies, what these significant storms are like. You know, in some cases I've heard they've had their 100-year storm twice just this calendar year, which is a lot for me to wrap my head around and wonder, wow, so how does an event like that, or what, I need a reminder of what our 100-year storm might be in our 2020s context, and how do boards, especially your new incoming board in 2027, how do you get them to appreciate what the design storm, trying to use the right phraseology, what the design storm is as it applies to your about to be newly adopted standards by then, and then out to these historic storms from other places at a point of comparison. So it's, this question of curiosity is not something that needs to be done relative to this permit work, but I think helps us or a future board in terms of understanding not only the wealth of information that exists at Clean Water Services, but how do we as board members sort of get our head around what you've planned for within all of this great work relative to other things that could happen using our 100-year storm imagination.
It seems like we have a new normal. Is what I'm sort of,
Well,
I think.
I
we need to
really,
maybe
I
understand.
feel really good about our team, and they're looking at the data to look at, to define what our normal is now and over the permit time frame, and they do make improvements from permit to permit. But I just don't know how to contain my imagination of what our current 100-year storm might be and how it compares to these videos that I see on the nightly news that's happening in other places in the country. You know, just in a simple layman terms, like they're having a level 6 or 10, and but our 100-year storm by comparison might only be a 4. And I'm making all this stuff up. Hopefully you know that. So
Yeah, we can certainly bring back some more information. And it'd be good for us, especially internally, to start making sure we have that.
well, and given what's on your plate, though, I'm not suggesting you try to do it with us by the end of this year, as opposed to over the course of time.
Yeah, that's great feedback. And, the climate is changing everywhere. We're seeing more intense storms across the world. Um, and the design storms we've had to design the systems that exist today, the systems in many cases are undersized. But if you look 50, 100 years out, I'm pretty sure we'd be dealing with the same situation we're dealing with now. But we'll definitely maybe bring some information back to the board as part of some of their onboarding stuff. Like this is some of the things that you should be mindful of as a board member when we're doing our work. Good feedback.
Yeah. And given the prevalence of flooding in places all across our nation, at some point, I have to think that there's a tipping point by which local jurisdictions and states have to say to the federal government, you know, we're at one of those points, just like when you invested in drinking water in the 1960s, 70s, 80s. We're at another point where we need your help to upsize.
Yeah, infrastructure.
Yeah. But,
Thanks for that feedback.
so just preparatory information from one board layperson. So great. All righty. Well, it was also important to us that not only that we had the presentation at work session, but this board wanted you to bring it to our business meeting so that we were doing our part for making sure we were elevating this topic for broader knowledge. So thank you for following through on all of that. Job well done, and I hope you feel comfortable coming back at future opportunities.
Wonderful. We'll see you in October.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All righty. Well, next we have director announcements. GM Harji, do you have anything first you would like to bring forward?
Maybe just a thank you to Elle, Damon, and the whole team. Like they've put a lot of effort into this. One of our first conversations, I just want to share that if you don't mind, was they were trying to get more feedback. Was our first conversation on this topic, and they were trying to find different ways to engage people who should be engaged, and a lot of them were the folks who do this design work. So it was really pleasant to hear that's the perspective they were approaching it in our first conversation about this. So just wanted to thank them for the work they've done on this.
Does that include, like, if someone has to the point that Commissioner Snyder was making earlier, we have a lot of engineering firms in even just our region for large construction projects, whether they're large neighborhoods or large commercial industrial scale. Did your engagement process
We did, yes.
include firms like that?
Yeah,
Terrific.
intentionally, yes.
I missed that in the presentations.
Yeah, they did an amazing job on trying to get more and more engagements. I just wanted to call that out.
Terrific.
Yeah,
Thank
that was
you.
it.
All righty. Well, I'll go over the next Board of Directors meetings calendar. On Tuesday, September 8th, that's in 2 Tuesdays now. Can you believe it's almost September? No, from me. But Tuesday, September 8th, we'll have a Clean Water Services Board of Directors meeting at 9 a.m. And then immediately following that, we'll have a Clean Water Services work session with us. Then on Tuesday, September 22nd, it will be once again another Clean Water Services Board of Directors evening meeting at 5:30. That's it for board announcements today. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
No, excuse me. Everything online says that this meeting started at 6:30.
That's the Washington County Board of Directors meeting, ma'am. This is the Clean Water Services Board of Directors meeting. So we will be at 6:30 holding the Washington County Board of Directors meeting at 6:30, and that will include public comment. Yes.
I move for adjournment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you.